I know you guys were here for a big old long training. That's really how easy it is to use Calldrip. It's a super easy tool to use. I want to spend just a couple of minutes though and tell you why. Because I know a lot of times in your position that a manager might bring something to you and say, okay, this is the new system we're using, just use it or like it or lump it. And I don't really like that. I really want to make sure that you guys understand how important this is, and that this isn't just a benefit for the store and for the management. This is as much as or more of a benefit to you as a salesperson at the store. So I want to just earlier this year, we spoke at a conference at Digital Dealer, and we presented a lot of good studies there as far as, and there was one big one that talked about, it was 3.5 million leads over 400 companies. And what they did is they studied response rates, and there weren't very many studies ever out there that studied things in under a minute, or a minute to 2 minutes. And they actually did go from 1 minute to 2 minutes. And they found out that if you could call a lead in under a minute, so that's from the time the person clicking enter on the website till they answer the phone saying hello, if that whole process took in under a minute, those people that were able to do that were setting double the appointments of the people that were doing it even 2 minutes. So kind of this, and I know this number here is kind of arbitrary. We'll just put 100% appointments that were set from, you know, the people that were, the appointments that were set, and 0%. So here's how this line went. And it was a really cool study. We really liked, you know, it reinforced what we always knew at Calldrip. But the one thing they didn't ever say in the study was why. And so we decided to go and try and drill into that and figure out why it made such a big difference. So internally, a team of ours went and they listened to 10,000 phone calls of actual Calldrip customers. We listened to 10,000 phone calls. We only tracked to 2 minutes, because really anything beyond 2 minutes is not something we generally deal with. A majority of our calls get answered in under 2 minutes, so we wanted to see what the difference here was. And here's what we found. It was super interesting, is that we found out pretty much the same as that study, is that this line right here, this was what happened. And so really what we kind of labeled this was the emotional connection. Because what we found was there's something that happens to build rapport with a customer. There's something that happens way before you even get on the phone with that customer. And that's this emotional connection. And it's something that you don't have a lot of control over because it has to happen in under a minute. And really without a tool like ours, that's almost impossible to do. This emotional connection only happened here. Any call that we listened to that was connected in over a minute, we never heard that emotional connection. What I mean by that was the customer themselves, when you would answer, when the call would get placed using Calldrip, the customer would answer, and all the agent would say was, "This is my name, this is my place of business," and the customer would say, "Wow, that was fast," or "Holy cow, you're on the spot," or "Man, you did a good job." And the customer was already congratulating that sales agent on the good job he did before he even started talking. Now you can't attribute any of that to the sales agent. That is all because of the response time. And so this is what we found here was what we called this was the emotional first impression. And that's a one-shot deal. You only get one chance to make a first impression. We know that, but you only get one chance to make that emotional first impression. It has to happen under a minute. Out of all the phone calls we listened to, out of the 10,000 phone calls we listened to, less than 1% of those phone calls, if they were placed in over a minute, responded back with any kind of "that was quick" or any kind of comment at all as to the speed of response of the customer. So we know that has to happen. And I want you to think about something, why this is so important is, when your customer goes to your website and they submit a lead request or they submit a request for information from you, that's their first interaction with your store or your business. That's the first. That's all they know about you is they're going to submit a lead, and then they're going to sit back and see what happens. And we find that there's absolutely no better first impression that you can make than calling that person back so quick. And it's something that can't be duplicated any other way. And so what we found with our own internal studies as well is with those 10,000 leads, it completely backed up that earlier study of 3.5 million leads, is that we found that if you called in under a minute, so calls that happened in less than a minute, then 1 minute, had 2 times the appointments of those that were called of more than a minute. Now I know we're here to set appointments and we're here to close deals, and it's important that we work on, you know, our attitude and working to be good on the phone. But this is one thing that you don't have any control over that makes probably the biggest difference in whether you're going to make a first impression and therefore an appointment with that customer. So guys, go out. If you have any questions, give me a call. But go out and just kill it with this thing. And I want you to understand that you're very, very lucky to have this in your store. That your competitors don't have this. This is where you are. This is where your competition is. They are killing themselves.